Because I lost some of the branches as I was applying the leaves, what you could do is go back with some black paint and just kind of add a couple of little branches here and there wherever you feel. So today I'm going to be showing you how to do a very basic tutorial on painting a tree if you're just beginning. So I have a few different colors here. I have red, blue, I have a cadmium yellow, yellow oxide, and black. I'm going to be using a medium flat brush for this. And I also have a small round pointed brush. So we're going to get started. I'm going to use a bit of black paint to begin and my medium flat brush. When I'm making the trunk and branches, it always helps to have the paint be a little more fluid to create thin lines. So I always try to drop a couple of drops of water in the black paint to become a little more runny. As you can see, it's a lot more runny than these other colors. So you can try that. I find it's a lot easier to work with that way. So let's start drawing a trunk. I leave my wrist really loose and I just start kind of creating this like very organic shape, and I'm gonna start thickening it up at the bottom here and thinning it out as I get higher and higher. So from here I'm gonna start branching out. What I do is I just literally make my brush flow. I kind of twist it as I go along, not a lot of pressure so I can create thin lines, and at the end I can just kind of pick it up to create a nice fine point like so. So I always end up picking up my brush a little bit towards the end. So I'm going to continue and make a few branches here and there, wherever you want on your tree. And I will switch eventually to use my small brush for some areas. I'm going to fill this in a little bit. And as I go along, I'm gonna start adding more and more branches. So also keep in mind wherever they connect to the trunk, the main branches should be a little bit thicker at the base, and then they'll get thinner and thinner as you make them kind of go out. You extend the line and always thin it out towards the end. You can have some overlap if you'd like. All right, so I might switch to my small brush now just to get a couple of fine details in the branches. You can add some smaller ones as well. Again, always thicken it a little bit at the base. Okay, so I'm gonna stop here for now. What I'm gonna do next is rinse out my brush and we're gonna start adding some leaves to this. So for the leaves, I'm gonna be using my medium brush for it. Now, when we're doing leaves, we're gonna start dark, and as we build our layers, we're gonna get lighter and lighter. So what I'm gonna start doing is mixing a little bit of blue and yellow here, just to make a green tone. I'm gonna dirty it with some red to make it a little more natural. And I'm also gonna darken it with some black. I wanna start with pretty dark base. Now, when I'm applying my paint, what I'm doing is I'm literally just dabbing it on. Very gently, not too much pressure. I kind of curve my brush as I go along as well. And you'll just fill in the different areas. You don't want to fill it in too much so you hide all of your branches. You still want to see some branches underneath, so keep that in mind as you fill in some areas. So I'm gonna add some at the top here. And also, when I mix my paint on my palette, I never mix it too well. I always kind of like to see the paint mix itself on the canvas as well, so you get all these different hues. So try that as well. When you're mixing your paint on your palette, try not to mix it too much, so you get all these different varieties of greens when you apply it on your canvas. It'll mix itself on the canvas. Just fill in a little bit here. Always using the darkest green. And also when I'm applying the leaves, as you can see, I'm not necessarily putting them only on the branches. Even if there's a space here and there's nothing there, I can apply the dabs and it'll make it look like it's a little more full and that there's the illusion that there's branches underneath. All right, so I'm gonna stop here. I feel like that's pretty full and I still see some of my branches underneath, so I'm happy with that. I'm gonna start with the lighter tones now. So I'm gonna rinse out my brush once more. And I'm gonna start to build some color with lighter greens. So I'm gonna take some more yellow, a little bit of blue here, get a little bit lighter, and start dabbing right at the tops. I wanna leave the bottom areas a little bit darker so you have that shadow. I'm just gonna work more towards the tops of the sections. Okay, and finally, I'm gonna continue on with just a nice pure yellow, just to really highlight the tops of the leaves. You could add just a bit of green in there, but I wanna keep it fairly light. And get right in there. It'll add more depth, more highlights. Because you have a base green that's still wet, it will turn into a light green, which is fine. I'm gonna do this side. All right, so I'm gonna stop here. We're gonna add some highlight to the trunk of the tree now. So I'm gonna use my small brush for this. I'm just gonna use a bit of that yellow oxide color. And right along the right side of the branch, I'm just gonna give it a little bit of a highlight. So you don't have to necessarily do every single branch, just do the main ones that kind of stand out. If you add too much, you can always tone it down with some black. So don't be afraid to always like go back with different colors. I'm gonna add a little bit more. All right, now, because I lost some of the branches as I was applying the leaves, what you could do is go back with some black paint and just kind of add a couple of little branches here and there, wherever you feel. Poke through the branches if you want, just in some areas. All right, and I'm gonna add a little bit of a highlight to some of those as well. Very gently. Again, not a lot of pressure on your brush for this. Just be really delicate with it. All right, so that's it. Also, keep in mind when you're making your leaves, try not to keep the shape too round, too perfect. When you look at a tree naturally, you'll have some areas that'll like poke up a little bit and go down. So keep your shape really organic so it'll look more natural that way, okay? So that's all I have for you today. Like I said, it doesn't take much to do a tree for beginners. You just need a few colors, a couple of brushes, and that's the technique I use. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed.